Intro: 20 stars who were too honest for Hollywood. What if I told you the greatest threat to Hollywood was never scandal, addiction, or even failure? It was honesty. Behind the velvet curtain of glamour and perfection lies a world built on illusion. Studios manufactured myths. Agents whispered lies into gold. Actors smiled through pain, bit their tongues, and played the part even when the cameras weren't rolling. But some refused. Some stars spoke truths too raw, too real, too dangerous for the industry to stomach. They questioned power, they mocked the machine, they exposed the rot beneath the red carpet, and paid dearly for it. They weren't rebels in leather jackets, they were legends in gowns and tuxedos, wielding truth like a weapon. Some vanished quietly, others were shunned in daylight. A few turned their honesty into a legacy, but never without a fight. Today, we'll pull back the curtain on *** 20 stars, who couldn't *** or wouldn't lie to Hollywood. From Marlon Brando's confessions to Tilda Swinton's unflinching truths, these are the voices that didn't play the game and changed it forever. So tell us, in a world of performance, who dares to be real? Comment below. Which honest star do you think Hollywood feared the most? Let's begin. Fact 1. Katharine Hepburn. Katharine Hepburn was never Hollywood's version of polite. She arrived on sets with a stare that dared anyone to question her. From the early 1930 seconds onward, she refused to soften her voice, tone down her opinions, or adjust her stride to suit public expectation. Studio executives feared her for her bluntness, yet audiences were captivated. She spoke openly about her disdain for gossip columns, her preference for trousers over dresses, and her insistence on roles that defied traditional female archetypes. Hepburn didn't just break rules, she refused to acknowledge they existed. The cost? Studios labeled her difficult, casting her out at times, but she returned stronger, securing 4 Academy Awards over her career. Her honesty wasn't a rebellion, it was authenticity, an uncompromising refusal to lie about who she was. Bridge. If Hepburn's forthrightness unsettled the golden age, others took their honesty even further, sometimes with explosive consequences. Fact 2. James Woods. James Woods carved his reputation as one of Hollywood's sharpest minds and its harshest critics. Long before social media amplified voices, Woods publicly called out the industry's hypocrisies. He criticized awards, shows, studio politics, and the culture of celebrity spin. On interviews, he would dissect the very system that elevated him, refusing to soften critiques to appease publicists. The consequence? Doors closed quietly, and roles slipped away. Yet Woods never altered his approach. For him, speaking truth was not a marketing risk, it was a moral imperative. In a town built on illusion, his bluntness was radioactive. And while studios may have recoiled, audiences who sought honesty gravitated toward him, recognizing a rare voice unafraid of confrontation. Bridge. Speaking truth often made Hollywood uncomfortable, but for some stars, silence was never an option. Fact 3. Lauren Bacall. Lauren Bacall grew up amid the studio system's gleaming artifice, yet she spoke candidly about its manipulations. She recounted how young actors were coached, molded, and often trapped by contracts that demanded perfection and silence. Bacall did not romanticize this era. She revealed it in stark terms: the pressure, the fear, and the cost of keeping up appearances. Her interviews exposed a world where beauty and charm masked exploitation. Bacall's honesty became her signature, distinguishing her from peers who followed the script of politeness. By daring to articulate the truth behind the glamour, she educated the public about the mechanics of Hollywood's studio era and highlighted the courage required simply to speak plainly. Bridge. Honesty could end careers or elevate them into lasting legend, as others would demonstrate. Fact 4. Richard Burton. Richard Burton's life was an open confession. He spoke freely about his excesses, from alcohol to gambling, from love affairs to the gnawing emptiness behind fame. Unlike others who masked vulnerabilities, Burton treated interviews as a confessional. He acknowledged failures that many would have hidden, exposing both the man and the industry that fed his notoriety. Studios often tried to sanitize his image, but Burton's defiance made that impossible. He refused to project a facade, insisting that truth, even messy, self-critical truth, was more compelling than any scripted persona. The world witnessed a talent both brilliant and flawed, humanized by honesty that Hollywood could not tame. Bridge. Where Burton bared his flaws, Shelley Winters revealed the unvarnished realities of life behind the curtain. Fact 5. Shelley Winters. Shelley Winters possessed a fearless streak that extended far beyond the screen. She spoke openly about backstage rivalries, the loneliness of fame, and the psychological toll exacted by Hollywood's relentless expectations. Winters did not embellish. She narrated incidents as they happened, sharing discomforting truths about colleagues, studio practices, and her own misstep. Unlike the typical crafted image of a starlet, Winters' candor was disarming, sometimes shocking, often enlightening. By pulling the veil back, she created a blueprint for honesty in an industry structured around illusion. Audiences encountered a performer who refused artifice, demonstrating that personal truth could coexist with professional achievement. Bridge. While Winters exposed life behind the scenes, Faye Dunaway would confront the very directors and co-stars shaping that narrative. Fact says, Faye Dunaway. Faye Dunaway never masked her disdain for incompetence or hypocrisy. On set and off, she was unafraid to critique directors, co-stars, and the studio machinery. Her honesty often sparked tension, earning her a reputation for being difficult, yet it stemmed from a relentless pursuit of artistic integrity. Dunaway publicly condemned compromises forced upon actors, exposing the subtle ways Hollywood manipulated narratives and performances. She refused to sugarcoat, claiming that the industry needed accountability as much as admiration. Her boldness challenged both peers and the powers behind the cameras, marking her as a star whose words were as sharp as her performances. Bridge. Beyond Dunaway, George Clooney would wield his honesty strategically, using it to challenge the very system that had made him a star. Fact 7. George Clooney. George Clooney leveraged celebrity as a platform for truth. Unlike actors who stay silent to protect their careers, he openly criticized industry double standards, unethical practices, and political complacency. Clooney's honesty was intentional, calculated, and fearless. He knew the cost, but refused to remain complicit. He balanced critique with charisma, yet his words cut deeper than any performance, laying bare Hollywood's contradictions. By speaking truth to power, he became a rare example of a modern star unafraid to expose systemic issues while still commanding the spotlight, inspiring a generation of actors to weigh integrity against opportunity. Bridge. Honesty was never limited to politics. For Sean Penn, it extended to the corrupt machinery of awards and accolades. Fact Lapin. Sean Penn. Sean Penn confronted Hollywood directly, exposing the moral compromises behind accolades and awards. He criticized favoritism, superficiality, and the cult of celebrity that overshadowed talent. In interviews, Penn dissected the industry's politics without hesitation, questioning the integrity of peers and institutions alike. This candidness alienated him from some studios, yet it cemented his image as an actor unafraid to speak uncomfortable truths. Penn's honesty transcended performance. It was activism in conversation, a relentless refusal to validate an industry built on pretense. His career demonstrates the cost and power of refusing to play along with superficial games. Bridge. While Penn exposed systems, Jessica Lange highlighted the personal toll that Hollywood's pressures exacted, especially on women. Fact 9. Jessica Lange. Jessica Lange's truth lay in vulnerability. She candidly shared the intense pressures imposed on women in Hollywood, the scrutiny, the ageism, the double standards. Lange refused to gloss over how studios, media, and audiences distorted the realities of female actors' lives. Her interviews revealed anxiety, triumph, and the resilience needed to navigate a patriarchal system. By speaking openly, she challenged entrenched norms, offering insight into the personal sacrifices behind fame. Lange's honesty was not provocative for attention. It was deliberate, illuminating the hidden cost of Hollywood glamour for women and inspiring a reevaluation of what it meant to succeed honestly in a deceptive environment. Bridge. Honesty, however, could sometimes reveal darkness. Marlon Brando embodied this fully, bearing both brilliance and chaos. Fact 10. Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando defied Hollywood's expectations by revealing the contradictions of his life and career. He spoke openly about addiction, the emptiness of fame, and the compromises imposed by the industry. Brando refused to conform to the polished image studios demanded, often shocking publicists and co-stars alike. In interviews, he confessed failures, insecurities, and moral conflicts, exposing the human fragility behind the star facade. His blunt honesty, sometimes abrasive, sometimes poetic, challenged the illusion of Hollywood perfection. Brando's legacy is not only his performances, but his courage to speak truths that others would bury beneath charm and charisma. Bridge. From Brando's confessions to Oliver Reed's raw candor, the next generation of stars continued this tradition of fearless honesty. Fact 11. Oliver Reed. Oliver Reed was the embodiment of unfiltered honesty. Off camera, he confronted the tabloids and the industry with a candor few could stomach. He spoke openly about his indulgences, his confrontations with directors, and the chaotic realities of his life. Reed's interviews often felt like confessions, exposing both brilliance and self-destruction. Unlike colleagues who sanitized their narratives, he laid everything bare: the alcohol, the fights, the vulnerabilities. Studios frequently attempted to manage his image, but Reed's refusal to perform a public facade made him untamable. To him, honesty was more than principle. It was survival in a world that thrived on illusion. Bridge, where Reed embraced chaos, Jane Fonda transformed personal truth into purposeful activism. Fakt 12, Jane Fonda. Jane Fonda harnessed honesty as a tool for revolution. Her candidness about politics, her own body, and Hollywood's moral compromises set her apart. Fonda spoke without filter about her anti-war activism, the backlash she faced, and the choices she made that challenged both government and studio expectations. She revealed private struggles in a way that intertwined personal truth with public impact, turning vulnerability into influence. Hollywood may have recoiled, yet her courage to confront uncomfortable realities elevated her from starlet to symbol, proving that honesty could be wielded not only for personal liberation, but for societal change. Bridge. Ellen Burstyn would later echo this courage, confronting aging, loss, and spiritual questioning with equal frankness. Fakt 13. Ellen Burstyn. Ellen Burstyn refused to mask the human cost of a life in Hollywood. She openly discussed aging, mental health, grief, and the pressures that accompanied fame. Burstyn's interviews explored vulnerability without theatrics, revealing the internal struggles that studios typically hid from the public. Her honesty transcended gossip or scandal. It was an unvarnished look at life behind the camera, a perspective that few stars dared to offer. By confronting mortality, loss, and the relentless passage of time, Burstyn reminded audiences that the facade of Hollywood glamour was just that, a facade. Bridge. Where Burstyn faced inner truths, Mickey Rourke embraced them, admitting every failure and misstep publicly. Fact 14. Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke turned honesty into performance itself. He revealed every personal defeat, career setbacks, failed relationships, and battles with addiction without flinching. Rourke's interviews carried an unpolished, raw energy, as if the camera were a confessional mirror. He refused to sanitize his story, presenting failure as part of artistry. Hollywood's critics often judged him harshly, yet his unfiltered candor earned respect from those who valued truth over pretense. Rourke's journey demonstrates that in an industry obsessed with image, the most compelling narrative can sometimes be the one that reveals imperfection without apology. Bridge. Honesty about personal struggle extended to confronting societal judgment, as Kim Novak demonstrated with her reflections on aging and isolation. Fact 15. Kim Novak. Kim Novak spoke with startling clarity about loneliness, aging, and the scrutiny women endure in Hollywood. She described the pressures of maintaining youth, the relentless public gaze, and the moral compromises imposed on actresses. Novak's interviews were devoid of sentimentality. She dissected reality with surgical precision, exposing the emotional labor demanded by the industry. Her courage lay in speaking plainly, acknowledging isolation and vulnerability, while refusing to present a false persona. In doing so, she illuminated the hidden toll of Hollywood's obsession with perfection, proving that honesty could be both defiant and deeply human. Bridge. Donald Sutherland would carry this fearless honesty into discussions of politics, art, and the price of personal freedom. Fact 16. Donald Sutherland. Donald Sutherland has never concealed his opinions about politics, art, or the compromises demanded by Hollywood. In interviews, he dissected the industry's moral ambiguities, calling out favoritism, greed, and the often invisible chains of studio influence. Sutherland's honesty was deliberate, not performative. He challenged peers and audiences alike to consider the cost of fame beyond applause. Studios occasionally recoiled, wary of a star who refused to toe the line. Yet Sutherland's unflinching candor cemented his reputation as an actor unafraid to speak truths others whispered behind closed doors. His words were a reminder that integrity could exist, even in a world built on artifice. Bridge. Alec Baldwin would carry this fearless critique into his personal battles with the system that nurtured him. Fact 17. Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin's career has been marked by a refusal to remain silent. He confronted Hollywood's hypocrisies head-on, from unfair treatment to tabloid distortions of his life. Baldwin's interviews often cut to the heart of systemic issues, refusing flattery or obfuscation. He publicly challenged directors, producers, and industry protocols, exposing the delicate balance between celebrity and agency. The result was both admiration and alienation. Doors closed in some studios, yet audiences valued his candor. Baldwin's honesty was sharp, deliberate, and occasionally abrasive, illustrating the high cost of speaking truth in an environment dependent on illusion. Bridge. Tilda Swinton would redefine candor itself, delivering honesty so absolute that even Hollywood seemed unwilling to approach. Fact Olofton. Tilda Swinton. Tilda Swinton's approach to truth is uncompromising. Known for selecting roles and projects that challenge convention, she maintains a candid distance from celebrity hype. Swinton speaks plainly about industry absurdities, gender politics, and the cult of fame. Her interviews reflect a refusal to participate in narrative manipulation. She engages honestly, without performative charm or artificial humility. Hollywood, accustomed to carefully curated images, often struggles to categorize her. Swinton's honesty is both shield and weapon, a deliberate detachment that underscores her independence. In a culture built on illusion, she remains unrepentantly real. Bridge. Even the youngest stars must confront honesty's price, and Robert Downey Jr. exemplifies this with his public recounting of addiction and redemption. Fact 19. Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr.'s life has been an open confession. He detailed his struggles with addiction, legal battles, and career collapses without sugarcoating. Where others might hide shame, Downey embraced transparency, turning vulnerability into narrative strength. Interviews, memoirs, and public appearances revealed both mistakes and introspection, earning empathy as well as scrutiny. His candor transformed public perception, allowing him to rebuild a career in an unforgiving industry. Downey's honesty was not merely self-serving, it redefined accountability, showing that confession can coexist with reinvention in Hollywood's relentless spotlight. Bridge. Ellen Burstyn, previously spotlighted, addressed aging and loss. Now, we encounter stars who confront fame with defiant individuality. Fact you gain. Ellen Burstyn. Reinforcement. Ellen Burstyn embodies the culmination of courage in honesty. She speaks openly about the passage of time, grief, and the psychological toll of performance. Her narratives illuminate what many avoid, the intersection of personal life and professional expectation. Burstyn's words are unflinching, reflective, and instructive, demonstrating that Hollywood's sheen cannot conceal universal human vulnerability. Her legacy is as much about her willingness to reveal truth as her performances, offering a blueprint for integrity in a world built on illusion. Bonus fact. Sharon Stone. Sharon Stone challenged Hollywood's superficiality directly. She criticized ageism, the marginalization of intelligent women, and the moral compromises demanded by fame. Stone spoke without hesitation about sexism in casting, the artificiality of publicity, and the personal costs of public exposure. Her honesty was defiant, fearless, and deliberate, exposing industry rot while maintaining her star power. Stone demonstrated that candidness could coexist with influence, and that speaking truth, even at the risk of alienation, can carve a lasting legacy. Hollywood thrives on illusion, yet these stars refused to play along. They spoke truths too raw for the red carpet, exposed hypocrisies behind studio walls, and challenged an industry built on artifice. Their honesty came at a cost: lost roles, strained relationships, and public scrutiny, but it also created legacies that endure far beyond any facade. Which of these fearless voices shook Hollywood the most? Comment below and share your thoughts. Subscribe to Behind the Velvet Curtain to uncover more stories that reveal the real faces behind the glamour. Remember, the glittering surface rarely tells the whole truth sometimes. The bravest stars are the ones who speak it aloud.